34 now. All good? Do I use this one? Or should I stand? Is it on? Can you hear me? Yeah, good. Thank you. Excellent. Well, welcome everybody. It's my...
You might just mention we're on the root system, and if people are hard of hearing, they can click in and it works fine.
Right, okay, so that's if you've got the T switch or whatever it is on the earpiece. Okay. Thank you for that, Johnson. Well, it's my pleasure to welcome you. I'm Brian Bates. I'm the Secretary now of the Knoll Residents Association, and welcome to St John's for the 49th Annual General Meeting of the KRA. Amongst us this evening, we're hoping to have, I believe, Deputy Mayor Councillor Keith Onslow might be with us later on. We have Councillor Simon Fulthrop with us in the front, so thank you for coming along. It's always good to see you. That's right. Yeah, he's the one hiding at the front. We've got a couple of apologies. First of all, our MP Gareth Bacon is in Parliament, otherwise he would have been trying to attend to see us. We were planning to, or we are still planning to have an update on the Walnuts shopping centre development, although Harrison Sharkey, who's on the Redcliffe development, is unable to be with us because apparently food poisoning, I believe. I don't think it's related to any of the people's involvement in the Walnuts. Councillor Pauline Tunnicliffe is away, otherwise she would have liked to have joined us. She's one of the councillors for Orpington. And on the councillor theme, Councillor Tony Owen, I believe, is in a development meeting, planning meeting this evening. So I believe he's still hoping to be with us, but might be somewhat late.
The drinks?
Yeah, probably just coming for the drinks. So on the panel with me tonight, it's a bit like question times, isn't it? Just to say we've got the current committee and hopefully future committee members with us. To my left is Steve Sangster. I'm sure most, if not all of you, will know Steve, our chairman. Then we've got Carol Carol Pittman. So I was about to say Carol Bisley, who was our former treasurer until just recently, who is somewhere, I believe, in the audience, over there, right at the back. Yes, Carol Pittman, who is now taking the role of treasurer for us. We've got Malcolm Studley, who is has been involved in our advertising. He's our commercial manager.
Just had a promotion. Awesome.
Exactly. Then we've got, who have we got over here? We've got Chris, forgotten your surname, sorry, Chris Newton, who is just hoping to join us on the committee. And finally, at the end, we've got, and I asked you what your surname was earlier, didn't I? It's Andrew. Thank you. Apologies. I seem to have mislaid the piece of paper. I had this all nicely laid out, but I'm gonna blame it on COVID because until a few days ago I was off sick with.
Do you know your own name? That's the main thing.
No, I haven't got a clue what planet I'm on. I don't know anything else. So, if in the event there's a fire, we've got emergency exits at the front and the back, so the side there. So please make your way out in an orderly fashion should you need to. But without further ado, we'll get on with proceedings. Afterwards, there's going to be some refreshments in the link area, so you're welcome to join us. I'm definitely going to need a drink after this. And before I get on to going through the rest of the agenda, I know that Margaret Collins from St John's would like to say a few words. Normally, in the
I'll stand on tip-tap.
Can you manage to reach it? Can you hear that?
Yeah, that's fine. Can you hear me? No.
Oh. I'll leave it to the experts.
Thanks.
And Steve, you turn
Right,
your
that's
screens
better. Yes.
on. Steve, you turning the screens on. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to welcome you all on behalf of St John's. As you will know, we are in vacancy at the moment. as Jennifer left us back in the end of April. So I have been a member here for longer than I really want to think. I've been a member, I've lived in our house just round the corner 48 years last Thursday, so I'm almost as old as the Residents Association. So I just want, on behalf of St John's, to welcome you and say what a pleasure it is for us as a church to be part of this Residents Association. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have a few formalities to get through. First off, we try to keep it fairly light and a little bit more fast-moving rather than being sort of all formal and stuffy. But there's a few things that we need to do, one of which is the approval of the minutes of last year's annual general meeting. The minutes for the 48th AGM are on our website. I would imagine if I were asked to a show of hands, anybody actually looked at them, apart from the members of the committee who put them up there and did them.
One.
There might be one? Yes, well, there's always one. Thanks, Carol. But what we need to do is have, this is where we get a bit of audience participation, where we do the minutes approval. We need somebody who can propose the approval of the minutes and somebody to second it. That can be a member of the committee up here. Thank you. And if we just... Is anybody else taking notes? I'll make some notes of names.
So Shirley Sinclair.
So do you have a seconder for...
I saw Carol Bisley.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'll run through the minutes. There's, I did leave a copy of last year's minutes, for the AGM on the side there as well. So I don't think we've got it for the screen. But there were a couple of action points I just need to point out, mostly because they were action points given to me and I didn't achieve them. So, so being completely open and honest and transparent. One of which was to do with our website promotions. As I say, we haven't quite achieved it. It was kind of an idea that was bounced around about how we could have greater links with the Noel Residents Association and St John's, where we are at the moment. And one of the suggestions was to try to ensure we promote events on the website. Well, there's probably limited scope for us doing that, as I found there's kind of a few issues, not least of which is time for everybody involved to do that. And probably St John's website is more capable of promoting itself than the few passing trade, or a little bit of passing trade we get to our website. But we have where we've been requested put things up, such as for the Scouts. Recently there was a request for helpers for the Scouts, so I put information about that up on the website. So I'm going to move to discharge that particular action point, because I think it's one of those ongoing things of having interaction rather than a tick in the box to say here's something that's done. And the second point was again with the website. It was looking to finding somebody to come and help with the website. I haven't particularly achieved that at the moment. Mostly because there's been other things that have been more important, such as getting the newsletter and everything done. So that will be an ongoing thing, but again, I don't think it necessarily warrants to have an action point to say you must find somebody to help with the website. So if that's okay, if nobody has any particular problems with that, I'm going to discharge those, but they'll just be kept as an ongoing endeavour. Beyond that, I don't think there are any specific action points to note. We're looking at inviting councillors and the likes of Peter Fortune to meetings. We had an update to the Constitution last year, which did go onto the website. So that's really it for the actions from the last meeting. Okay, so the approval of the minutes has been noted. We then have the next part, which is the election of the committee for the coming year. So Actually, could we move on to the next slide, please, Steve? Probably 2 slides up, in fact. Next one, please. That's it, perfect. I should have had this slide up earlier when I was trying to introduce everybody. And that's because I knew that I didn't need to have it written down because it was there somewhere, but I couldn't remember where it was, and it was up there. So the way that the committee election goes is that any resident is free to put themselves forward. You do need to have a nomination and somebody to second it. That can be somebody that you know. It could be somebody here, should you wish to. If there's anybody present who'd like to stand for election, which simply means come join the committee and help out with the coming year, then you're more than welcome to. But what we've got up on the board is the current people here. The roles are the roles that we are in at this moment. They're not set in stone. Our constitution says that we actually vote within the committee for who does the roles at the first meeting after the AGM. So we have 4 committee meetings, 4 official committee meetings each year, plus the AGM, I believe. I think it's plus the AGM. So, as I say, those roles aren't set in stone. In fact, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't the secretary, Carol wasn't the treasurer, and so on. But they've been moved around. It's a bit like a reshuffling of the cabinet.
But much
only
more
hopefully
organised.
more organised, more successful, and more understandable. Sorry, Tom. So, for each person, I believe we need to have a nomination and a seconder. Now, ideally, we don't do it all within the committee ourselves. We don't just sort of nominate each other. So, if there's anybody who is willing to put forward, and I'll just go down the list of names. We're not specifically saying this person is going to be the chairman, Steve, or and so on. But if I can go down the list of names and ask for a nomination and a seconder, and if there's nobody on the floor that particularly wants to, I'm sure somebody up here can do it. But it'd be nice to have other names do it. So could I have a nomination and a seconder for Stephen Sangster for the committee, please? Could I take the gentleman in the red, Peter Woods? So.
That half nominates this half sentence. It's unanimous.
What's that? Sorry.
That half nominates this half.
Okay, so for Stephen, we've got a nomination of Peter Woods and a seconded by Shirley. Yeah. Okay. And then we've got Nick Baker, who unfortunately isn't with us this evening. I'm not sure whether he'll be able to make it later, but he's got other commitments this evening. Okay, so a nomination for Nick Baker. So Wendy's one.
And Julia Burton. Julia Burton second.
Seconded Julia Burton. A nomination for Carol Pittman, please. So do Johnston at the back. Thank you, Johnston. And seconder. I'll mix and match. So Julia. Who have we got next? Oh, me. No, for me. Everybody can put their hands up to nominate me, can't they? Okay, thank you. And do we have a seconder? Lady? Pardon, sir? Do you say Kay? Sorry. Kate, sorry, Kate. Kate Woods. Thank you. Then we have Malcolm Studley.
I think it's a separate meeting in its own right.
Okay.
You don't have to. I could drift away in the distance.
So nomination for Jackie Stevens. Thank you. And a seconder for Malcolm. Gentleman here. Alan Collins. Thank you. Then we're moving along the bench to Chris Newton. nomination. Go back to Shirley again. Shirley. And a seconder. Tina Wheeler. Thank you, Tina. And finally, Angela. Do we have a nomination for Angela Bannerton? Who's the back there? Oh, we can go for John. And the seconder. Can I go right at the back? Who's right at the back? I can't see. Ray Humvey. Okay, thank you. And I think that's got to the end of the list. Thank you for bearing with us for that. Is there anybody who would wish also to join the committee at this stage?
Oh, no.
Speak now or come to us afterwards. But the way it works with the committee is that if you are nominated and voted in at the AGM, you are a full committee member. Through the year, other people may join the committee, and that's happened so far. And you know, we're quite a fun, sociable committee. People would join us. They can help out with things. You know, sometimes it's just helping out for one occasion, or maybe it's several occasions through the year. The only difference is that you don't have voting rights within the committee for things that we're trying to decide to do if you're not nominated at the annual general meeting. So you have to then be nominated in at the next one to be the full committee member. Right.
Before we move on,
done.
just wanted to say we're very sad to see one member of the committee not go forward this year. Carol Bisley, as Brian alluded to earlier, is not standing for re-election. Carol, if you don't know her, she's done a fabulous amount of work for the committee over the last 3 years. I think it's about 3 years, isn't it? We roped you in. Initially looking at the newsletter, which I think we'll all agree has moved on leaps and bounds from a few years ago. And then more recently, work on the Treasury, keeping us afloat financially, plus lots of work doing the various events that we've had over the years as well. So we wanted to say thank you to Carol. You are a little bit of a victim of your own policy as Treasurer to say, right, we're not going to give leaving gifts, we're not going to spend leaving gifts on members' money, which is very right. But we have found someone that's handmade you a nice little gift. So I'd like to present that to you, Carol. A lovely handmade Christmas wreath for you.
Okay, so with that, the next item on the agenda is the Chairman's report. So we could hopefully see it.
Excellent. I'll try and rattle through it fairly quickly. Those of you that have been to previous AGMs will know that we've set out 3 priorities as an organisation. One is to be a collective voice of the Knoll. That's the core reason of having a residents' association, really. Secondly, improving the community spirit in the Knoll. We see that as you know, we can tackle a lot of the opportunities and threats that we have if we can work collectively as a community. And thirdly, working efficiently and effectively. So there's not a lot of us on the committee, so we have to work very kind of focused on the things that add most value, really. So those are the 3 priorities. I'm going to quickly just march through some of the successes I've seen over the last year or so. So if we just flick on to the next slide. So the first one being around collective voice. So some of the big things that we've been looking at in the last year, taking up some of our time, have been around crime. Obviously the Met Police under special measures, and you know, we've not been immune to problems with neighbourhood policing. We didn't see it as being massively fit for purpose. Our focus has been really recognising that we don't really have the police resources that we need locally. That's kind of understood. But those resources weren't really focusing on the top priorities that we had as a community. So actually, with Simon's help and being part of the local crime panel, we've changed their top 3 priorities away from what they were to actually what residents have told us are the most important things. So that's dealing with domestic burglary, car crime, antisocial behaviour and drug dealing. So we've been able to shift that priority. I don't know if it's a consequence of that changing shift that we've actually recently seen a chap get charged with 19 burglaries locally in the area, which we'll claim that as a success, I think, on the new strategy. Planning has been another big one. Obviously, the Walnuts application was withdrawn. It went a bit quiet. Then we had the Orpington Town Centre SPD. I always forget what it stands for. Supplementary planning document, which is kind of the blueprint for what you do want to see from a town centre. And it's a hard document to feed into because it's quite easy to get people to tell you what they don't want. It's quite hard to get, particularly in a diverse community, a consistent view on what people do want from the town centre. But Carol actually did a fabulous job collecting resident views on that, submitting that in. So we felt we've got a really good blueprint there for the next submission, which I think is on the agenda today to talk about. There's been some big infrastructure projects as well. So the leisure centre, which was part of the previous planning application, is now going to be developed by Bromley Council. They've set some money aside from it, and they wanted to know what residents wanted from a leisure centre. So we had a role being on the working group there, again reaching out to residents, asking what people wanted from a leisure centre, feeding that back into the consultation. There's been a lot of other consultation. I think we get a consultation every week almost. We have to pick and choose what we go from to work on. Anything, from ULEZ in the last year, situations on litter, street lights, parking, Sunday trading. If you're on the Facebook group or connected online, you probably see some of the polls that we put out to get a feel from residents what the feedback should be, and then we always feed that in. And we think that's really important actually, because this is local democracy on the ground. We're giving that feedback in to councillors, our MP, the London Assembly. So your feedback's really important on the matter. I think Simon will attest to the fact that we don't hold back giving our views, hopefully.
You're just quite as nice.
So that's the first principle, is a collective voice. It feels like it's been a great year from that perspective. Priority 2 is around building the community, and I think some of the most visible ways that we do that is through some of the events we do. So we had a really successful coronation event, and whether you're into the monarchy or not, we saw people from all sorts of backgrounds, ages and beliefs coming together to really have a celebration with neighbours and break a world record for the largest human crown in history, which was pretty amazing. What was great was to see all the, I think it was about 40 cakes that arrived from residents and was all eaten by about 700 guests, I think, that turned up on the day. So that was amazing. We have the open-air cinema events, which are very popular. I think maybe John's probably still feeling the aches and pains, getting that big screen erected. Appreciate your help on that. But yeah, again, really popular. Attracts people from all parts of the Knoll, and we always have a good time. I should also mention as well, a big event we had was the Open Gardens. If you attended that, you would have, I think it's about 5 or 6 gardens we might have had, including myself. This was an idea from a resident and used the kind of rails of the Knoll Residents Association to kind of advertise it and launch it, and raised a lot of money for charity, which was fabulous. And it's great to see some of those ideas coming from the community now, not just us kind of organising the events. Loads of other events, too many to mention really, but we had Beating the Bounds, we had a pagan walk on the summer solstice, we had the pumpkin trail, not to mention the monthly quiz nights that Malcolm organises. Lots of opportunities for the community to get together. But to us actually, the community aspect, before I move on from that slide, the community aspect is not just about the events. It's about creating mechanisms for everyone to come together and to be able to support each other with any opportunity, issue, problem that residents find. So whether it's from, you know, wanting to borrow a ladder because your cat is stuck up a tree, whether you want to borrow someone to go up the ladder as well.
Ungrateful cat.
So maybe you've got a fundraising event. You know, we had a chap who's from Turkey, and we had the terrible earthquakes earlier in the year, and we did a collection of clothing and domestic items, a whole van full really that was collected in the community. That was fabulous. You know, maybe you want to expand your social life. You know, loneliness being a big problem these days. We do have these events to support with that. Maybe you want to get fit and healthier. We have Shirley organising the Knoll active walks every week, plus other activities like cycling that's occasionally done as well. Maybe you want to learn more about the history of the area. Maybe you believe there's a Roman temple under Broomhill Common. We can plug you into the history group now, over 100 people who will tell you you're probably quite mad, but whether you're looking for a recommendation for a tradesman or a cleaner, whether you're walking back from the station late at night and you're concerned that you're being followed. We've got the crime group with 300 people, over 300 people on it now, that could offer you a safe haven if required. And God forbid, if you ever were suffering symptoms of a heart attack or your relative or neighbour was, we now are establishing DFibs and hundreds of trained people with the confidence to use them. So whatever your issue, opportunity, I feel really kind of confident now that we have the mechanism that if you want to reach out, there's definitely going to be someone in the community that can help you with it to some degree. I think that's a great step forward that we've seen, certainly in the last year, and why it's our top priority as a residents' association is continuing to build that community spirit. And finally, the third priority is just making sure that we work efficiently and effectively. We are a small group of people. The one element I will call out on this, which I think is really well illustrated with the graph there, which is an inflation adjusted graph showing our income over the last 40 years. I must say the record keeping in the KRA has been exemplary, that we can go back that far. And you can see the income declining quite steadily over 30, 40 years with the old membership model where we used to go door to door collecting 25p. Now I can't tell you how much work was involved in that, collecting the money, working out who had paid, who hadn't. I think those that had paid got an extra newsletter or something. It was a whole industry, and it took up most of the time of the committee doing that. And when COVID hit, you can see the dip towards the end of the graph there. It became apparent the model was quite difficult. You know, we had to stay at home, we couldn't send people out to collect the money. And we took quite a bold move to advertising revenue, voluntary donations as well. And you can see income has taken off since then, and we're certainly in a very sort of sound position at the moment. A lot of that recent income has been because of the campaign we've had around the defibrillators, although that spike at the end there doesn't include a very large cheque that we're about to, I think, receive from the co-op, which we'll talk about in a minute. That was just one example there, really, how we've shifted the funding model, freed up all our time. We can focus on more value-adding things. There's lots of other stuff we do in that regard as well, but I just wanted to kind of bring that forward. So in summary, I feel in the last year or so we're becoming a stronger community. We're helping each other more than ever before, and as a consequence I think we have a louder voice in the community and outside the community with stakeholders as well, which is great, and that's really exciting as we move into our 50th year next year, to continue to grow that. So thank you everyone for supporting.
Thank you, Steve. It's certainly it's one of those things where I didn't want to become part of the committee a few years ago, and I recognised when I did join the committee how it just shifted that funding model. And I heard some of the tales about the door-to-door collection of funds, especially on a dark night, and people didn't want to pay it. And it was such an improvement, I think, to move to the model it is.
The other thing actually is, if you're probably wondering what the big spike was in the 80s. It wasn't a yuppie resident with lots of money to donate to us. It was a campaign actually to raise money to plant trees. And I think on Broxbourne and Broomhill, there's two little areas where trees were planted 40 years ago, which we all benefit from now. And now we've got this spike with the DFib campaign. It kind of got us thinking we shouldn't leave it 40 years before we do the next campaign as well. So hopefully more to come on that front.
Very good. Okay, if we could move on to the next slide, please, and give a quick update, a very brief update on resident engagement, but it comes in well with talking about the things being done for the community. One of the big changes which occurred around about the time of the pandemic was the move to having a Facebook group, and that's about the time when I started. The Facebook group was already up and running before I joined the committee, but it was still in its infancy. And I think that was quite something that suddenly allowed people to be brought together, because one of the problems we've got in the Residents Association is we do things like we're now having the cinema on the Common, and we'll put something out in the newsletter, and that newsletter goes out 3 times a year, and sometimes it's close to not going out, but it has gone out so far. It goes out 3 times a year, and into that we try to cram in some information about what's going to be happening, and then we'll be doing something like the first cinema event on the Common, and there we were putting the screen up, and somebody popped by and said, what's going on? And I said, we're putting a screen up, we're having a part of the Residents Association, got talking to them. Anyway, we're having this cinema event. They said, oh, if only you'd told us. And I was thinking, well, we put it in the newsletter, but we don't really have much else away. At that point we did have the Facebook group, so we could put it in there. And I said, well, we had it on Facebook, but I don't do Facebook. Well, we put it in the newsletter. Oh, I didn't read that. But if only you told us. and you sit there thinking, well, how else do we? We've had conversations about, do we get a big tannoy system on the knoll? Wake up everybody, we're going to do this. So trying to find ways to engage people, because we do get that not everybody does social media. Not everybody's into Facebook. They don't all do Twitter. They don't do these things. Even if you do one of them, you might not do all of them. And the WhatsApp groups have taken off, and that's improved things quite a lot, because a lot of people will use WhatsApp even though they don't do social media, because it's not quite the same. It's a bit like texting your friends, but you've got a bit more interactivity to it. And so we looked at things like WhatsApp for how to improve the knowledge of what's going on. We've tried to improve the website so that that's something that people can go to, but I recognise that actually the website is, whilst it's there, and we need to have the website because that gives us kind of a brand, and it's somewhere where we can put additional information, especially if we put something in a newsletter. We've only got so many pages available to fill up, so we can put a sort of additional overflow information onto the website if we need to. But it's still quite difficult, apart from those 3 newsletters a year, which some people just take from the doormat and put in the recycling bin without reading it, but still wish we told them things. So we've tried to sort of broaden it a bit. If I just go through the statistics, I was just before we started, I was looking through our WhatsApp groups. So we've got a chit-chat group, which just allows people to have general conversations. We've got 146 members of that. Now, if we consider, I can't remember how many people we've got as residents, generally speaking, but we've got a few thousand residents, if every man, woman and child in the Knoll area. But we've got 146 people on the chit-chat group. We've got the Knoll Active group, of which Shirley has become our patron. There's 120 people on that. We have a sharing group, which is growing more popular, where people can, as we mentioned already.
Someone made a mistake of saying they've got a carpet cleaner today, and that's the most popular item. So this guy, Ravi, he's going to be lending it out, I think.
So we've got 180 people on the sharing group, and that's people who might want to be able to borrow things, or sometimes have things to borrow, and people are also using it for getting rid of items as well. One person has got something they're trying to free up space, move it onto the sharing group, and is often a taker for it. The crime group is the most popular at 332 members, and the history group, which which hasn't been going for very long, is already 117 members. Facebook, we've got 1,100 members on our Facebook group. So we'd like to think we're making a bit of an impact, a bit of a dent, especially into the areas where people don't do social media. There's always scope to find other ways of passing the message, but really we are obviously limited in terms of if people don't want to engage on the platforms that we can put out messages on, then they're going to be stuck with their 3 newsletters a year. We do also have what we call the Null Beacon, which people can subscribe to, which is an email service. There's information about that in the newsletter as well, but you can go onto our website and you can click a link to say, you just put your email up onto Null Beacon. And just periodically, if I put something up on the website, which is a post on the front page, and I mark it on the website to say this also goes out on the Beacon, then the following whatever day it is, it varies depending on how immediate it needs to be. But it goes out to anybody who's subscribed to the Beacon emails as well. So I think we've got about 50 subscribers now to that. So there's all little ways that we can gradually creep up and get the message out, but it's really down to, you can't make people engage with you. But I think things are moving quite well. Now I have one apology. The last newsletter that went out had a series of QR codes on the community page, the second to last page on the newsletter. And those QR codes were printed sufficiently small, and they lost some of their quality in putting them into the document, so they weren't readable. So to make up for that, to make up for smaller things, I've just laminated a few sheets, and they're out there. Anybody who wants to join the WhatsApp groups who wasn't able to, the proper QR codes are on here, and one big QR code to rule them all. That QR code, if it works, because it didn't work on my phone, but it did work on my wife's phone. I think the only reason it didn't work on mine is because I'm already on the groups, and so it just went spinning. But that's the QR code for the single community group, which attaches to all of the other groups. Those are available out there. I've just printed off a couple of them, but please go scan them later and take your pick. If you join a group and it's not for you, just leave it again. No hard feelings. Nobody's going to worry about that. So that's all I've got to say really, I think, on the community side. But thank you those of you who have started to use those groups. I've realised how popular they are when I can't keep up with them anymore. So it's good. Okay, so the next item on the agenda would be Madam Treasurer, I believe. Carol Pittman.
Next slide, please, then.
Can we move on to the next slide,
Next
please?
slide, please, Lee.
Cheers, Lee.
If you can read those.
I'll be able to read it,
That way.
but
So, hello everybody, my name's Carol Pittman. I'd just like to start off by thanking Carol Bisley, who was the previous treasurer, for all her hard work, and also to thank Brian Powell, who's been the independent examiner of the accounts, and he's signed off our accounts for this year. I shared the annual accounts in the Facebook group about 10 days ago, and they're up on the screen now. They do look a bit different from last year because we've had money in from the DFIB fund. So we keep the DFIB fund separate from the other KRA money, and that makes it look a bit different. So on the screen that's up now, that's the income and expenditure report, and it shows we've had income of 3,300 this year-ish. If you add on the amount of money we've had from the DFIB, which is about 4,000, you get to the 7,000 that was on Steve's graph. So showing that if we add the special appeal to the normal fund, we get a big spike in the income. Advertising revenue on just an ordinary revenue was up this year, and it's paid for the newsletter. We've had an increase of individual donations. The Constitution says we can accept £5 per person per year, and we've had about 200 donations in from individual members. If we could get that up for next year, that will enable us to carry on the same level of activities that we've been doing this year. So hopefully that will happen. On the expenditure side, the main expense has been the events, which is the Coronation Tea Party and the open air cinema. if we look at the Tea Party event, to put on a similar event next year would cost more because we received £230 effectively discount because we didn't have to pay the council for the common hire, and the council also gave us a grant of £330. So to match that type of activity, we would have to get another £560 in. The other main expenditure is the printing of the newsletter, and that's already paid for by the advertising. So overall, you can see we've got surplus this year, which is an improvement of about £1,000 from last year's deficit. It's good news. It means we've got a bit of a buffer for next year. And if we look at the next slide, please. I always wanted to say that. It's Chris Whittle.
It's like being back in COVID times.
Yeah. So there is the balance sheet there, and you can see the surplus on it is what we've got available for normal KRA expenditure, which is matched by the amount in the normal current account. And in the DFIB account, we've got £1,700 left as at the end of September to pay towards other DFIBs. And if you look at the side of that, you can see where we've got all the DFIB money from. The main contributions have come from the quiz night, which Malcolm has done, and he's going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, so are there any questions on it? Has anybody got any questions on it before we move to a vote? Would somebody like to propose to approve the accounts for the year? Shirley? They're on the, we're here. And who's that second?
Johnson Brown.
Johnson Brown, second. Thank you. And then the other thing is to, Brian Powell has kindly agreed to act as independent examiner again for the coming year. So can we vote to reappoint him, please?
So we have a nomination, or sorry, a proposer.
Proposer is Carol Bisley.
Thank you, Carol. And the seconder.
I'll second it.
Yes, Malcolm.
Okay.
Yeah. If anybody's got any questions after, it's kra.treasurer@gmail.com.
Or you'll discuss in the drinks after.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've got a couple of pieces of paper if anybody wishes to look at them and discuss in depth. I've got writing on the back of the
Yeah,
piece.
I've got them.
So the figures you can see, it's a bit difficult to read up on the board.
They are
It's,
quite good, yeah. But essentially we're doing all right.
We're doing all right.
We're doing all right.
The Treasurer says we're doing okay, but we're not allowed to spend anything.
No, not yet.
Okay, thank you, Carol. That's everything as far as the
The
Treasury.
account, yeah, that's done.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the community fund for the defibrillators, which is the Co-op Community Fund.
I think it's going to be
Now-
constitutional changes.
Over to our commercial manager.
Do you want me to go first, or? You go first, then you. Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you to all the advertisers that have supported us for the last few years, that have enabled us to put the newsletter out in colour, do it 3 times a year, and stop that door knocking, asking for your money every year, which, let's be honest, was a very outdated way of doing things, and people putting their own money in. So we're glad to see the back of it. So thank you very much to the advertisers. Now the DFIB, I can't remember whose idea it was. I think it might have been Luke, the owner of the Cricketers, trying to get me to do a pub quiz for him, and me refusing to do a pub quiz without there being something in it for us. Whoever's idea it was, it's taken on a life of its own. From the time that Jenny and Steve filled in the form to be one of the co-op 3 local causes, that's just gone from great idea to something a bit scary, if truth be told. Getting on the co-op scheme gave us the ambition to buy, fit and have a lifetime fund for 2 defibrillators in the area. What's happened is a bit better than that. So, how are we going to fund a part of the co-op thing, we had to raise £500, had to do it ourselves. They don't give you a free lunch, the co-op. They make you do something yourself. So we had to raise 500 quid. How are we going to do it? Well, we thought we'll do these pub quizzes. That's what the landlord wanted. We'll do the pub quizzes, we'll raise the money. And the pub quizzes were brought to you like Sesame Street by the 3 Fs. Fun, friendship, and fundraising. But actually what's come off the back of that is the DFIB campaigns being brought to you by the letter C and the letter E. And there's been total community engagement. And for that, I can't thank you enough. And I think what I'm about to say now, you'll get it. So, we had to make some money. We had to make 500 quid. Did we make the 500 quid as a community? No. We made £4,003 as a community. That's what the community did. And it did it from sold-out pub quizzes, £1,500 and 1509. Personal donations, one large one from a gentleman who lost his wife. And if you've been to the Cricketers pub, you'll see there is a defibrillator up on the wall, light on, you can find it any time. And in the pub, we call that Val, because that was his wife's name. But we also had other personal donations. So that came to £1,194. With the coronation event, your generosity at the coronation event delivered £403. We then had the Open Gardens event. Instead of it all going to one charity, half of that money raised came to the defibrillator campaign. That was £332, with a special thank you to Annie and Gavin for having the idea, driving it through, and then just tapping into the KRA to help them. What an amazing event. I think that will go from strength to strength. Then we had coronation wreaths made specially by our glorious leader's wife. How the Sangster family have time, energy to do all the things they do. But that was £315. And then finally, but not last, the amazing Rotary E-Club of Orpington, there where they do the Santa dash, effectively, not the dash, around the community. That was £250. So community engaged, £4,003. You did it. We didn't do it. We just sort of built the thing and the community got behind it. And then, just as if that wasn't enough money above the 500, our friends at the co-op came in. All right? And we'll come back to that in a second. So all of a sudden, we've gone from could we get to 2 DFIBs to can we get to 3? The answer is yes, and there will be 3. And before Christmas, there will be a defibrillator outside of this church, available for everyone, 24/7, available for the emergency services or anyone else. Okay? So, Knoll residents, thank you. You did it. It's you what done it. Now, some people say defibrillators are very expensive, Malcolm, and you know, they're a nice thing to have, but they're very expensive. You could use the money elsewhere. So I'm just going to give you a very, very quick overview of DFib 1, or VAL, as we like to call it down at the pub. This is DFib 1's life so far. Put up on the wall and linked to a thing called the circuit. Now, the circuit enables all the emergency services to tap in and find a community defibrillator. They know where it is, they know it's working, they know they can get it and use it in an emergency. That was the 18th of September. On the 19th of September, we trained, free of charge, 19 residents in basic CPR and use of the defib to try and take away that fear that would, if anyone had to use one, would already be bad enough, to try and help that. On the 29th of September, DFib 1, or VAL, gets taken by the London Ambulance Service as a backup emergency defib for the first time. It's only been up a week and a bit, and it's already been out. On the 9th of October, it goes out again with the London Ambulance. It's been out in its second outing. On the 19th, we train another 23 local residents in CPR and basic defib. Hang on, it goes out again. The 8th of November, Val gets a third outing with the London Ambulance Service. Third time as a backup defib. It's not even been up 2 months. So I would argue they're not just nice to have. I think if one of us was suffering and it needed more than 10 shots to bring someone around, Having a community defib there to back up the emergency services one is a true lifesaver. So I think they are worth having. We're really pleased and really chuffed with the community engagement that has delivered them. And there will be more training available. We'll be doing it here with our excellent trainer Bernard, brilliant bloke, makes it really simple, makes it really easy. Some of you have been to the training. I think you don't need to be a medic to do it. You just need to have a half an ounce of sense. It's really, really worth coming. So please watch this space for those training sessions. We'll have one here, and within the next 2 weeks, we hope to have the final location for the last defib. So we went out to the community engaged, the results have been spectacular. I'd just like to say thank you so very much, Knoll residents, because it's you what done it. Thank you so much. 3 defibs will be operational before Christmas. Thank you. Thanks, right. Now, a bit like me banging on at the pub quiz all the time, I think it's important that we let Jenny, who's the co-op pioneer, who has helped us and held our hand through this process, just say a little bit about what it means to be one of those causes and how much good it's going to do us. So, Jenny.
Hello, everyone. Some of you will know me. I'm Jenny Collins. I'm the member pioneer for Orpington for the co-op. I'm a local resident. I live almost opposite the Cricketers pub, and I'm an active member of the quizzes, so great fun. Just give you a very, very short bit of background. What a member pioneer does is I am employed by the co-op. I work full-time. I work in media, but I'm employed by the co-op for 16 hours every 4 weeks, and that's to go out into the community, into a local community, and find out what causes and organisations the co-op can help. In the last 9 years, the co-op have given away £120 million to causes up and down the country. It's something like 5,500 causes. And it's an application process where people apply to be a local community fund cause. Applications open in April. There's a vetting process, there's a selection process, and up until this year it was 3 causes are chosen. It will now be 2 causes that will be chosen from the end of October, and the funding year runs for a 12-month period. The way that money is raised is through people spending money on their co-op card. So I hope all of you have co-op cards. What it gives you, when you spend money in the co-op, 2p in every £1 that you spend on branded goods goes back on your card, and that's for you to spend. And another 2p goes into a community pot. Now, 1p of that goes to bigger causes. So at the moment we're supporting Bernardo's, and in previous years we've supported Mind and the Red Cross and organisations like that on a national basis. But the other 1p stays locally, and it goes into a local fund, and it's given back locally, which is something I'm passionate about. I mean, I've been involved with the co-op for many, many years, going back to regional committees, and when everything sort of was about to change and the co-op nearly folded, there were a dozen of us that said, you can't lose the community aspect because that's at the heart of a co-op. So rather than people applying into Manchester and funding being filtered down, we went out into our local community, hence me in Orpington. I've been a resident for 26 years now, and found out who's around, what causes, what help was needed. And it went from there, and there are now over 1,000 member pioneers up and down the country. So I work as a team of 10 across Bromley, Eltham, Croydon as an area. So we're a team. I knew Stephen. We got chatting. We were talking about the fund. The application went in, which was great. I do get involved in the selection process. I put my case for all the causes I know. I normally know most of the causes that apply, because in one way or another I've worked with people, whether it's helping them raise funding, volunteering, getting things like mince pies, which we're talking about, from the co-op as donations. So there's various things like that. But as a result of everybody contributing and everything that we did with the fund, I handed over a cheque, which I'm very proud to say, £3,214.90 for the defibrillator campaign, which is a huge achievement. And all of that money has come from people shopping in the 3 food stores at Carlton Parade, St Paul's, Cotman Dean at St Paul's Cray and Green Street Green. So all of that money is from people shopping. It's all the 1p's and it's how it's added up. So, you know, that's a great achievement for everybody that's a co-op member and has spent, because again, you've contributed to this. And on top of everything that's been raised, aside from just the co-op funding, you know, to go from 1 to 3 defibrillators is really exciting. What the committee don't know, we do a newsletter that goes out to all the stores, all the managers. It goes up to Manchester. It goes to all the members of the co-op board. And one of the lead stories for this month is the defibrillator campaign and how we've all worked together. So as soon as I've got copies of that, I shall send some copies out so everyone can see the publicity they've got as a result of everyone's achievements. So thank you. And the other thing was, when I did the presentation with Malcolm, my team won the quiz. Only by 1 point, but we won. That was myself and funeral care, so... Let's see what happens at the next one. Thank you.
Next slide. So if you move on to the next slide. Please.
Well, I think you missed out 2 very important votes.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
I've got that in my pack. That was a late entry.
A late entry.
Okay, so yes, we've right. This was mentioned or alluded to earlier. One of the problems that we face on the committee with donations is when we went to doing the non-doorstep and moving to personal donations model. What we wanted to do is ensure that nobody could be accused of effectively cash for questions or taking initial donations for anything else. So we wanted to limit the how much of a personal donation any one individual could make. We just put a limit of £5, so that whether or not somebody gave a donation, it wasn't going to influence anybody. It was just a figure that was chosen. Thank you. So we're now, unfortunately, slight victims of our success in that occasionally we get donations from people where they might want to pay, or give us £10, and we receive donations. We get both at my address and at Steve's. We'll get kindly people putting through the letterbox. We've got some envelopes with here's the KRA, and mostly it's a £5 donation or a £10 for a couple of people. Occasionally we get a £25 donation, and we think, well, within the terms of our constitution, we're not supposed to accept that as an individual donation. But we don't. There's certain logistics to this. With GDPR, we're not collecting details of who gives donations. We don't sit there saying, oh, Fred Boggs has given a donation and so, and this is what there is. So there's no real way that we can say we're going to put a cap on donations. So if Simon came and gave me £5 tomorrow, in 3 months' time, I'd have to remember in my head that it was him who'd given me a donation. So short of keeping a log, which then raises all sorts of implications with GDPR about everybody who's submitted money to us, and all we want to do is just take donations as people want to give them. We don't have any real way of policing this. It would be nice if we were able to raise the limit or even remove the limit for personal donations, but we don't want to make it so that somebody's just going to give you 500 quid and without batting an eyelid. So what we're looking to do, and I'm just double checking because I read this earlier, but what we're looking to do is to raise the personal donation limit, I think, to £50 before it has to be minuted. But we would have to say to people, if you give us £50 or more as a single donation, we will need to have that minuted and we do need to have that approved by residents as a whole, so there will have to be some note made that you as an individual gave a donation. But our aim here is not to try to encourage people to give us £20 a time. It's simply that we recognise that within the terms of the Constitution, it's almost impossible for us to currently police it. And if people say to us, here's £10, we don't know whether that's £10 for two people in a household or £10 from one person. It's almost quite difficult to do. So if there's anybody, I don't know whether people want to discuss the idea further, if people have got other ideas of what we could do with this, but our aim would be to amend the Constitution. Now, if I read the actual terms of the current Constitution, which is, there's a very brief section, it says, this in our finance section, paragraph 17, it says members can make one personal donation to the KRA within each calendar year, which shall not exceed £5 in value. Members making the donation shall not benefit from any additional service, privilege or favour above any member who has not made a personal donation. So so it is a donation. There is no requirement for people to make donations, but we recognise some people are more able to make donations, some people wish to make larger donations. So really, does anybody have any strong views one way or the other? Is it okay for us to accept donations above this £5 per adult per year threshold?
I think we need 2/3 of the room to approve it. So if you wouldn't mind raising your hand if you approve.
Oh, sorry, actually, yeah, so on challenge. Okay, so the background on it, it says the Constitution permits funds to be raised only from advertising, general fundraising and members' donations. Paragraph 17 of the Constitution limits each member's personal donation to £5 per year. Its aim is to ensure that it is not possible to buy favours by making large donations. In practice, it is very difficult and sometimes impossible to say whether cash or bank receipts are a personal donation or a part of general fundraising. We cannot trace the cash donations. One bank transfer or cheque may comprise donations from more than one person, and there may be insufficient information on the bank statement to identify the donor. The proposal is to amend paragraph 17, and paragraph 17 is the one that I read out. To amend that paragraph so it says, members wishing to make a personal donation to the KRA should be mindful of a suggested annual donation amount of £5, which may be amended from time to time. Acceptance of any donation of £50 or more will require the approval of the committee and be recorded in the minutes. Members making the donation shall not benefit from any additional service, privilege or favour above any member who has not made a personal donation. So what that last piece again says, I'm just going to have a quick sip of water. So what that last piece was saying was that we would still leave in there that members should be mindful of a suggested annual donation amount of £5. So we're not suggesting it should be raised above that, but it may be amended from time to time, so that limit may be raised. But it's more of a guideline than a limit, effectively. But it's to make members aware that acceptance of any donation of £50 or more will require approval of the committee and be recorded in the minutes. So if we have received a donation at the next committee meeting, we would record in the minutes that donation was received, and we would have to then note who it was received from, so that we couldn't be accused, because it's to protect us as much as everybody else. We cannot be accused of giving favour to any one individual as a result. Mm-hmm.
What would happen if the donor wanted to remain anonymous?
Well, that is where we have a problem, because I can understand that somebody wishes to remain anonymous. There might be good reasons. I think we would still have to note down that, and we would have to, basically the person has got the choice, I believe. That's how I see it. If you don't have to, we're not compelling you to make the donation. If you wish to make that donation, then if it's above that limit, we would have to minute it.
Is there any way you can record it without making their name public, as it were?
I don't really see how it can be. I mean, we're not necessarily going to go and shout it to the walls, but So Wendy, were you going to...
I can make a suggestion
Okay, yeah.
for that,
Mm-hmm.
in that yes, it would have to be recorded in the minutes, but for something like that you can have a separate sheet that's a confidential sheet. So the minute would record that on the public side of things that a donation had been received, details duly noted,
Yeah.
and then there would be a separate sheet that wouldn't be publicised,
Mm-hmm.
but it would be within the committee, and that way you protect yourselves, you protect everybody else, the donors remain anonymous.
Yeah. It's certainly...
Or just give us 49.
yeah. Yeah.
Would it not be better to say acceptance of any donation of more than £50, not £50 or more, because the 50
Because 50 is quite...
category, just any donation of more than £50.
That's a fair point, actually, because yeah, otherwise people will have got to give 49.99. Yes.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the other thing is whether that covers any gift if people can give them.
We're not a charity, so we don't get covered for gift aid. So yeah, unfortunately, yeah. There's,
Okay, so subject to... Simon?
Not for me to interfere with your constitution, but if every time you want to change the limit, you have to change the constitution, you might want to somehow delegate that to the committee or to without having to change the constitution by 2/3 majority every single time. And so you might want to put a mechanism in there to allow an AGM, which is where you decide fees and things and donations, to be able to do that.
We have said which may be amended from time to time. Doesn't say it has to be in the
But that
AGM.
implies the constitution has to be amended. I'm just,
Mm.
it's not for me to
I don't
interfere, I'm trying to make your life easier
Yeah.
in the future.
yeah.
So
I think the original thought stands. It is to make sure that at no point someone can say, well, that person bought into it. It's really, it's simple as that. And if people wanted to give us more than 50, then I think you just have to say, no, actually 50 pence if we don't genuinely.
£1 to £6 or something.
We could just say which may be amended from time to time
But that's
by the committee.
Yeah, by the committee. And I think if you just put something like that in there, then it covers it rather
Yeah.
than having to come to a constitutional change.
So we could minute in a general meeting
Yeah.
at some point. This is now the limit,
Yeah.
so that
Well,
we
it's
could refer back to that.
It's not a limit. it's
Well,
a
yes, yes,
suggested
okay. Let's just...
donation.
So
Yeah.
you would come forward to each AGM and we suggest this, and then the AGM
Yeah.
votes on it.
Mhm.
And it's a simple majority then, which makes
Mm.
it a lot
Good.
easier.
All right, a few points there. I think what we do, we will amend the proposed wording, and our next general meeting, we'll put the wording forward for vote at that point.
Well, you could agree it now in principle as per the suggested amendments.
I think there's a couple of things we want to reflect on. One is having a register for anonymous donating. Secondly, the ability to amend the £5 outside of the AGM or general meeting. And then there's a third point, I think, as well.
The wording of £50 or more rather than more than £50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't feel comfortable asking people to vote on something where we need to make a few changes, quite a few changes to the wording. So if people are in agreement,
Mhm.
we'll reword it, and at the next general meeting we'll put it forward. Is that okay? Yeah? Unless you want to reword it now.
Well, I think I might have. I think the wording is quite clear and revised, so I would say that it's members wishing to make members wishing to make a personal donation to the KRA should be mindful of the suggested annual donation amount of £5, which may be amended from time to time by the committee. Acceptance of any donation of more than £50 will require approval of the committee and be recorded in the minutes. I think the keeping part of the minutes silent doesn't have to be part of this.
Okay, would people feel comfortable? Okay. If I could just see a show of hands, make sure we've got 2/3. Excellent. There we go. And by the way, there is a donation box.
There's one for the church there as well, just to make sure that other donations are available.
Okay, I hope the next vote's going to be easier.
Just on that point, we did have donation this year of £25. So if everybody's comfortable that we can now
Bank it.
bank that under this rule, that would be good. So if anybody's got any particular objections, there's a couple of glasses of wine out there for them later. Thank you. What's the next? We've got another surprise item, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's the addition of Sevenoaks Road West.
Okay, so this is an amendment to the Constitution for the inclusion of part of Sevenoaks Road. So it's the side of Sevenoaks Road. Sorry. Yeah, the amendment to the Constitution for the inclusion of part of Sevenoaks Road. Now this is walking from the War Memorial down to Tower Road. So it's on that side of the road, also on the what do you say, the west side? The west side of Sevenoaks Road. So it's part of it would then become part of the Residents Association. Partly it's because we currently extend down as far as the bottom of Tower Road, but then we don't, historically we haven't included that part, but we're conscious with the defibrillators. We wanted to have a defibrillator down at that far end of the area boundary. And there is a location on Sevenoaks Road, Monkey Puzzle, and I believe they're where the Knoll surgery moved to and then moved away from. Now we're looking at that as, and I believe this is firmed up, but we're looking at that as a location for one of the defibrillators. So by including Sevenoaks Road within our boundary, it makes for a fairly convenient place to have the defibrillator, and also allows us to include the few houses along that side as well who are currently not included. So the proposal is the inclusion of Sevenoaks Road West from the War Memorial to Tower Road into the boundary of the KRA. Properties between 33 to 66 Sevenoaks Road, certainly thereabouts. It might not be those particular numbers. Okay, right. But it's probably the even numbers in that roughly in that range. Okay. But anyway, I think everybody's reasonably clear on where we're talking about. I should have been reading this as I was questioning things like Monkey Puzzle, shouldn't I? But we already have a road warden to deliver. Thank you, Carol. So if anybody's got any strong views one way or the other, whether that should be included, I'm sure it probably makes little difference to most people apart from the presence of the defibrillator. But we'd like that, again, is a case of amending the Constitution, so we need to have a majority vote, 2/3 majority vote. So if anybody's got any strong views against, please don't put your hand up. But if everybody else is happy or has strong views for, then please vote in favour of that. So. They have actually had the newsletter delivered. They had the last newsletter delivered to them. So I'm trying to think whether there's any downsides to having it apart from the additional newsletter arriving on their mat. If anybody wishes to not be part of it, obviously they can tell us they no longer wish to receive the newsletter, and we have to take that into account.
I mean, the point is, it is actually in the electoral ward of Pexwood and the Knoll, so it's been a bit of a miss really for the last 49 years not to have included them. So the fact we've got a defib there now, and we certainly know a few people that live there that are quite keen to join.
We used to deliver to Bracely close on years. You know, that's the...
I deliver, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So when you come from War
Yeah.
Memorial, you used to about, I suppose, 2,000, we 2,000. So
Okay.
we used to have two people every year, members there, and they all the flats there used to
Yeah.
get them. So will they be included?
They're already, Bracely Close is
Yeah.
already in.
Yeah, we had them last
Yeah,
year.
in fact, yes. At the last AGM, we had a similar thing, and Bracely Close got included already. So, yes, thank you.
So we say show of hands. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'll get typing on the amended constitution. Okay, so I think that's it for the additional items. Have we got all nuts update? So if we move on to the next slide, please, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, this is the last item. I think we might have some representatives from Redcliffe hiding at the back. Hello. Do you want to come forward? You are gathering around the microphone. So welcome to Michael from Redcliffe and Ben, isn't it, from Architects? Yeah. It'd be great if we could maybe just have like a 10-minute overview of kind of where you're up to with the second development, and then we'll go into Q&A straight after.
Okay, first of all, can I just apologise? I've got a bit slurred speech at the moment because I've managed to paralyse half my face. So, sorry about that. So where we are at the moment is we've had 4 events. Yeah, 4 events so far to try and gather information from everyone about the types of things they'd like to see happen with the development or a proposed development of the shopping centre. And that has... we've obviously reviewed everything that was done previously and all the objections that were there for the previous consultation that was held, so we know very well what people don't want. But what we thought we'd do is we'd sit down and talk to people before Ben could start drawing anything to understand the types of things people would want to see. So far we've held 4 events, 2 of which have been open community groups, and 2 have been design forums where we asked people to come and contact us to be part of a design group that would input into the architect's vision of what could happen and what could come forward. They were, I think, very successful. Everyone was very engaged, and it was selected from a demographic that represents the demographic of Orpington itself. So there was lots of different types of people, different age ranges, ethnic backgrounds, etc., to make up the pool. I can't give you too much on that because unfortunately Harrison, who runs our community engagement, is unwell today after eating some sardines that had gone off. Anchovies, there we go. And unfortunately has made me talk, which is sorry for you guys there. So we did that. So the only things that we'd set as boundaries for the architects outside of that was we said that we'd looked at the SPD that had been inputted into, and we saw where maximum height was considered and where it'd be appropriate. And we worked out that we need really to be having 500 new homes to make the opportunity viable. So that's where we set out our stall at the start. We said that to everyone who came, and I see some faces that were at the event in the shopping centre. And what we've done is just gathering information really from the community to find out the types of things they were interested to see going forward and what type of development they were interested in. And as you can imagine, I think the information that came back for us is very varied because there is such a cross-section of people around in the community, so everyone has a different idea of what they want. And Ben's job at the moment, along with Harrison, is to collate all that information, and then hopefully we've got a scheme that they can show me that we can then show to you guys in terms of what we think, what you said, and what our priorities are to what can be delivered. And once we have that all together and we have a consensus on that, we can then go and speak to the council as the freeholder of the site and say to them, look, we've spoken to the community, this is generally what they've said to us, this is what we've come up with, is this something that you wish to entertain going forward any further? If they say to us, no, absolutely no way, then, well, that's it, it's done, there's not much more we can do. because ultimately they're our freeholder. And that's kind of where we are at the moment. So that's kind of our update as yet. Hopefully it's, 2 weeks, is it, before the drawings? 30th. There we go. So, 1 week.
That's for the sketches, is it?
Yeah, some rough sketches. We haven't, we won't be able to give you a huge amount of detail apart from roughly what it might look like, because we have to then go through, if the council are on board, because of the cost of doing a planning application, if the council are on board, we then will work through the detail and have a whole nother round of consultations, which will tell, which everyone will have a chance to have a second bite at the cherry to say if they like what they're seeing or then they don't. And that will be after further detail design, because we could come up with something now, say, right, that's a great idea, and you guys, yeah, it's brilliant, and then we go through the detail and we find that there's a sewer that runs in the wrong place, or there's something that you can't do, or something just causes too much of a problem for one person that you can't get around, then we have to move things, and then we need to sit down with you guys again and say, look, we've had to move this, and this is why it's been moved, or this is done this way because of this reason. And that's kind of the process that we go through now.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah, sure.
After the next stage is for these sketches to come forward and for the public to see them
Mhm.
on the Walnuts working group.
Yeah.
Once the sketches are there, is there going to be an opportunity for the public to feedback on them, or are they just going to go? What's the next stage before they?
Yeah, no, there will be. So the point with the council as the landholder, not as your council or your planning authority, but as the owner of the land below the shopping centre, because we have what's known as a long leasehold interest. So we're a tenant of the council. Part of the conversation with them will be, this is what we've come up with so far. This is the feedback we've had. If you are on board with thinking that this could work, we make an agreement with them to proceed together to move forward. And then you have another opportunity, actually more than one. You have, I think it's about 3 or 4 workshops normally that happen over a 12-month period. And the other thing which we haven't done yet, which will influence it either positively or negatively, I don't know, will be the mayor and the GLA. Because we unfortunately have to go to them, and they have to agree. Even if you guys want something, they might be quite vehemently against it, so we have to find a way to negotiate with them so that we can get something that works for everyone. And I know ultimately the mayor doesn't live here, so it's a bit harsh, but fortunately he's got a veto power.
Could I just revisit the question?
Yeah, no. So we will show the drawings.
So I think on the 30th we're going to present the sketches, so illustrative, first thoughts that pick up on some of the themes that we got from the working group and the consultations. So give any way, for example, connectivity through, this is kind of big landlocked.
They can comment.
But yeah, we will be inviting comments and feedback from
And I think it's through our website that will be done. If there's anyone who has not access to the internet or wants to do it by written letter, that'll also be okay. And what I think I'll suggest to Harrison is that we have a Dropbox in the shopping centre so that people can just post stuff if they want to, rather than having to, email it or.
And I think that the working group, like you said, I think the working groups, from my perspective, it's not commonplace to engage with local people at such an early stage, and I found it really genuinely enjoyable and really useful experience. And I think off the back of that, I think we need to talk about it. I think we're thinking about convening those working groups again in the following year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we should do.
It's really, really useful.
I do think it's very important for everybody to be, I think the working groups are great. To get a representative group is good, but people also want to be represented. They're not representing people in the working
No,
group.
they're not.
And I think other people may want to be involved. So I'm not quite sure how you're going to do that.
Well, the practicality of having more people involved on a group like that is logistically, it's a nightmare. But everyone will have the opportunity to comment and make reference to everything that they see.
Yeah, I think the working groups aren't in.
They're not.
They look to replace the
Yeah, they're
process.
in addition to it.
Yeah.
So normally what happens is I go and speak to a planner at the local authority sitting in their little room, and I take them a scheme and they tell me, oh, if it meets policy or it doesn't meet policy. Then we present it to you guys, almost like a fait accompli, right? Which I think is what happened previously. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to kind of do it in a different way to see if there is an opportunity to make something of the walnuts.
Good. I think there's a question from the floor here. Jonathan.
I did complete the form a couple of weeks ago and put on what I do think is a priority. Just like to say about this, a lot of people don't think about it, but it does seem to me that having something for our young people to do, some kind of activity, is absolutely central to
Yeah.
what I would consider to be important. Trying to grab to go 10-pin bowling the other day and discovered everything closed. And the pin bowling is something which I would put down very strong request for. Together with things like table tennis, bar billiards, that kind of thing. Activities for our young people are essentially required. And by the time this comes to fruition, I'll long be past my sell-by date, but I just would like to think of the next generation coming along having something for them.
Yes.
Thank you, yeah.
In fact,
We did take that on board. We've seen that one.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, in one of the working groups I was involved in, specifically, we spent quite a while talking about 10-pin bowling. I think lots of people were lamenting the loss of the local facility that did that, the 10-pin bowling in Bromley. So yeah, so I mean,
in fact, in our last meeting, you were asking us for ideas.
Yeah.
So we have got an action to reach out to everyone.
Fantastic.
You know, what sort of community benefit ideas are there around there?
We will be
'cause-
putting a poll on Facebook
Yeah,
for those that are on Facebook.
because the first walnuts obviously came with a proposal to regenerate the leisure centre, which is now out of scope. So I guess there is some potential budget and space there for community benefit, and whether it's a bowling alley or I quite like the idea of a small theatre myself, particularly with the Churchill Theatre potentially being out of action for a little while. Let's see what the demand is and feed that back in.
Can I just say that there was cynicism about the size of the area for the display, which was a small shop in the precinct.
Right.
And, you know, it's long and thin, but I couldn't even, get near it. And thought, well, is this a ploy that people then can't make comments, can't see the plans, can't comment?
Was that previously, or because I think the last ones we had were in the middle.
yeah,
Yeah, so
centre of the
I think previously where they had it in a shop unit, the last two that we've had have been in the centre of the walnuts, which is a lot easier for people to come in. And I think that's most probably where we'll have them going forward. Sorry, excuse me. It's most probably where we'll have them going forward.
Can I just say, I think the democratic idea is that this has been talked about for 2 or 3 years. It's going to be talked about and, the process will go on and on and on. And meanwhile, the Walnuts is decaying and so is the leisure centre. And what we've actually wanted in Orpington is some actual action.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Look,
What's going on?
I completely agree, and the sooner I can get something done, the better it is for us. Because, I hate that old adage, time is money, but for us, it really is. The longer it keeps going, the worse it gets for everyone, and we completely understand that. But we have to try and work with the council, because they also have an income stream that we give them that they're trying to protect, as well as seeing something happen. So we're kind of playing with a double-edged sword, I'm afraid. Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Simon, did you want to come in here?
we obviously, sorry, probably easier to talk this way than talk with my back to you. We obviously do recognise that you are part of the London Borough of Bromley, and I think you'll find that you're quite well represented if you remember the last consultation and all the things that we did to try and make sure that you were represented. And actually, I think that worked perfectly. I will say this, the council has already submitted many millions of pounds to refurbish the Walnuts and West Wickham Leisure Centre at the same time. So paper went on that very recently, and so everything's in train to make sure that we do that. There will be some disruption while that happens. It's inevitable that when you're upgrading things like leisure centres that there will be some disruption. But that's all in train, because that was part and parcel of, if you like, the last iteration where people said we want the leisure centre upgraded, and we listened, and that is going to happen. So there is that aspect of it. And I can assure you that if something comes out, because there's people in this room, and you may or may not be representative of views in the Knoll, I don't know, but I can assure you that we will do another consultation ourselves of our residents as we did last time, because we feel it's very important that that happens. I'm not going to comment on the particular application or what I want to see in it. There's a supplementary planning document, and it's down to you as to what you want to see in it. And hopefully, if these guys get it right, you'll agree with it. That's where we are. But if they get it wrong and you don't agree with it, then I will always be on the side of the residents. Simple as that.
Good question over.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Was that in the recent ones? Okay, the last one, okay. Thank you, we make sure of that. And just to clear up a point, you mentioned money that you made available. None of that was actually for the Walnut Shopping Centre. No, it's for the leisure centre. Okay. I believe it. Unfortunately, I don't write the supplementary document. It's been
I've read
by
it.
Carol.
I think the maximum height is one building of 15 stories, which is, I think the college is 10 plus the tower, so that's quite a big. Why that happened, I don't know, but that's what's in the SPD. And I think the rest of it may say it's between 3 and 9 stories for the town centre. I'm not completely sure about that, but the 15 stories is the maximum height of one building that the council have put into the supplementary planning document. I think it went through a consultation last year.
I think it's been adopted now, so I think,
Yeah.
One of the views from Crofton Road protected as well.
Yeah, that's a protected view, and from Chelsfield as well.
Yeah.
So it's a well-protected view.
Yeah. And the proximity to the conservation area and the priory.
Yeah. And then we submitted, we did a poll with our residents, and the most popular height from memory was 6 to 9 stories was what was acceptable.
Or was it under maximum 6, wasn't it?
I can't remember exactly, but it was certainly less than the 15. But obviously we can only put our views in, and then the council planning team will develop the SPD accordingly. So
there is a planning seminar on Saturday that 3 of us are going to attend. I can ask a question about the height. and see what they come back with. Just to say, how did they come up with 15 stories? And who did it and why did it? And, you know, maybe there's some logic there.
I think the height is driven by the college, as you,
Right.
like I said, because it's 10 stories plus a
The
tower.
the chimney.
It's because it's a college building that the story height is higher than, say, a residential story. So I think, you know, it's the equivalent of 15 residential
Oh, right, okay.
stories.
Didn't understand that. I haven't got that.
Don't take my word, I might be wrong, but I suspect that's probably...
Any other questions on the walnuts proposal? Julia?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Correct. You'll also see what the layouts will be. If I remember rightly, we have to redo all the views and have them verified from all the different angles. And what I can categorically say to you is we're not going to be showing any images that are just at street level. Anything we show will show you the full extent of the height that we are going to.
What's the split? The 500 new homes, shared ownership?
So we're actually working through this at the moment because Orpington, Bromley and the GLA have a very similar requirement in terms of affordable housing, which is shared ownership, social rented and private ownership. And it's done on a habitable room calculation, which basically means if you have a 3-bed property, it's worth more than 1 unit. Where if you have a studio, it's worth less than 1 unit. So it encourages developers to do more affordable units that are of 2 and 3 beds and not studios, which I don't think we put in at all. No, I don't think we do. But I don't know yet because he hasn't shown me what he's coming up with. But it will be a mixture of those, and we're looking to meet policy in that respect. So, that, you know, at the moment, we don't know because part of the detail that comes out of it is the shapes of the buildings will also dictate whether units are larger, smaller, if they've got more habitable rooms or less. But what I can say is it's going to be substantially more than what was trying to be previously proposed. And our target is 35% by habitable rooms as an affordable allocation. And that's split between intermediate, which is normally key workers and people on lower incomes who want to get into ownership, and those who are a purely social rented product.
Okay. You may be staying behind for a drink or two.
I can't because I have to get a train back to Gloucestershire, sorry.
But we certainly will feed any questions.
Yeah, no, please do. As I say, we're here to listen to what any ideas people have, because for us, it makes our lives a lot easier. We don't have to second guess. And I think part of the problem the last guys had was they tried to second guess a lot on using things that they'd gained from other areas that they'd done stuff. Whereas that doesn't work. It needs to be from here outwards rather than from outwards in.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming along.
No, it's
Thank
right.
you for that.
Don't forget the DP.
Oh yeah, no, they're really good. I've had the unlucky chance of using one of those on a rugby pitch. They are lifesavers, honestly, absolute lifesavers. Yeah.
Right. I'll ask if there's any burning questions for the committee. We will be going over for some drinks. We are overrunning a little bit, so maybe take any burning questions, or if you had a more general question, we can take that over a glass of wine.
So I might just ask, you mentioned it's the 50th anniversary next year. Are plans afoot for an occasion again
great question, and I think, Carol, your chief
I think that question
50th anniversary...
was that question sponsored?
I am very much in favour of some kind of celebration next May. Something along the lines of the coronation party I thought was fantastic success. I thought it brought everybody together. And if we need a reason for a party, I think the 50th anniversary is a good thing to do. And possibly my suggestion would be, given it's 50 years ago, some kind of 1970s theme. So if anybody's got any ideas along that or any other lines, please get in contact. 78.
Bring your own spangles and space operas.
Space operas are in.
Any residents here that were around in 1974 in the Knoll?
Of course, many.
There was a few. Excellent. Well, if there's no... Ben?
I can stick around for 5 or 10 minutes anyway, so if you've got any questions, directly send to me.
Fabulous. Otherwise, I think we hope you will join us for a glass. We've got soft drinks, we've got some wine, and some homemade biscuits as well. So please come and enjoy.
Do I escape the questions then?
Well, I think you'll be coming in for a chat with us, won't you?
Simon will be hiding back. Wendy.
It's not a question, it's very finished. Can I, on behalf of everybody, thank you, the committee, for all the hard work and all the things that you've achieved for this whole community. I think it's absolutely wonderful to hear what you've done. And thank you for tonight.
Thank you.
With that, we should call the meeting to a close. Thank you for coming along. Please do come join us for some wine.
It's
and
wine o'clock.
biscuits.
Thanks, Ben.
It's all right, sorry.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Hello.
Yeah, likewise. I live in Bromley, so
Oh, right,
less
okay.
of a commute back for me. So
I think I had quite a big chat with your dad last. Is it brilliant?
did you? Handsome fella, no hair. Yeah. Yeah, did you? Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was really.
My business partner.
I also had a chat last